I have a gavel. This is awesome. All right. Is everybody good if we turn it live? Sure. All right, let's do it.
Not talking about the missile codes.
Good. All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the City of Asheville Economic Recovery Board meeting. This is our first full meeting as an individual group. It's 9 o'clock, so we'll get started. Welcome. So good morning. I'm Chris Correll, Staff Liaison for the Economic Recovery Board, and I'd like to welcome you to the November 20th, 2025 meeting. All board members are participating in person at the moment. We don't have anyone virtually. To help our audience follow along, I'll state each section of the agenda aloud. We are streaming live on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city website. We also have an option for the public to listen live by phone. For those of you out there with us today, welcome. For today's meeting, we have an option for people to call in and comment live during the meeting. To call in and comment live, use the number 855-925-2801 and the meeting code 2131. Your phone will be muted and you will hear the meeting live. At this point, speakers will need to push *3 to enter the speaking queue. I'll now introduce the committee members and staff. Board members and staff, as I call your name, please say a quick hello. Looks like this is in alphabetical order. Scott Adams.
Hello, good morning.
Cheryl Antonic-Seuss.
Good morning.
Eva Michelle Spicer is not here. Ann Keller.
Hi.
John Ellis.
Here, present.
Pat Kappas.
Here, good morning.
Jessica Thomason.
Good morning.
Katie Cornell is not here. She said she'd be a few minutes late. Amy Kelly, not here.
Good morning.
Sorry.
I'm here. Good morning.
Alexandra Monique Ravenel.
Goddess morning.
Jeffrey Burrows, not here.
Oh, he is right there.
Right there. All right. For the record, Katie Cornell just came in and Jeffrey Burrows. Janice Ashley, Deputy City Attorney.
Good morning.
Morning. John Philman, Community Event Manager. And then our presenting guests later today, James Shelton. And potentially Elma King might be jumping in. Morning. All right. So to kick things off, we'll go, everybody's got an agenda at your seats, printed out. First things first, we need to approve the November 4th minutes. Hopefully everyone had an opportunity to look at those, and we would entertain a motion to approve unless anyone has any adjustments they'd like to see made.
Move approval.
John, do we have a
Second.
All right. We need to do roll call votes for all of these votes. That's part of the hybrid meeting model. So John Ellis has made a motion, Pat Kappas has seconded. Any discussion on the minutes? None? All right, roll call vote. Scott Adams.
Aye.
Cheryl Antonic-Seuss.
Aye.
Eva Michelle, not here. Ann Keller.
Aye.
John Ellis.
Aye.
Pat Kappas.
Aye.
Jessica Thomason.
Aye.
Katie Cornell.
Aye.
Amy Kelly.
Aye.
Alexandra Monique Ravenel.
Aye.
Jeffrey Burrows.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. Unanimous. Thank you. All right. So next up is our first new business item, officer elections. So we talked about this a little bit at the November 4th meeting. This is our opportunity to elect a chair and vice chair. And at that point, starting the next meeting, the chair would run the meetings, not me, and vice chair would be there to fill in when the chair is not available. And that's that position that would work with staff to help set the agenda items as we go forward. So we did have 6 different people nominated and 4 individuals that were interested. I sent out quick statements from those 4 so that everyone is aware. Jessica Thomason, Ann Keller, John Ellis, and Jeffrey Burrows are all currently interested. If there is anyone else that would like to nominate themselves or someone else, now is the opportunity. Nope? Okay, great. So to start the process, I think a quick discussion makes sense, and maybe an opportunity for each of those 4 to speak and kind of give their thoughts, opinions on why they would like to be a chair or vice chair and how the process would work. Janice can correct me if I'm wrong, is at some point someone needs to nominate. I nominate Pat Kappas to be the chair. We would need a second discussion and then vote, and then the same for vice chair, for example. So we want to just go in that order that I listed off. Jessica, do you want to talk?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I know many of you in this room, but not everyone. I have been a longtime resident of Asheville, almost 30 years. I have been working in the arts for over 20 of those years. I also have a strong background in entrepreneurship, so I've taught entrepreneurship at the college level at Montreat at Western Carolina University for the last, mainly Montreat for the last 10 years, and then also at Western Carolina. I also work with high school students. I run a youth apprenticeship program out in California for underserved communities. I produce festivals and events. I run Echo Mountain Recording Studio for 20 years. I have used festivals and events as a means to entrepreneurship for all sorts of businesses, from food service to arts, anything in between. I ran the Goombay Festival for 3 years, where we used we partnered with city staff and mentor organizations to help people to create their businesses that are still going today from over 10 years. And I'm just kind of a nerd for entrepreneurship. I am starting a program working with youth in our community. My daddy taught me that, my sister taught me that, to teach workforce development skills, and basically using art as an opportunity to teach things from project management, coding, and a number of the soft skills that come with that. So I look forward to having the opportunity to serve on this board in really any capacity, but I've also been the chair and the vice chair of the Noise Advisory Board for the last 5 years. So thanks for considering me.
Thank you. I guess Ann Keller, would you like to?
Hi, I'm Ann Keller. I have a very different background from what you just heard. I've moved here about 9 years ago. I used to come here all the time before that. I have a lot of meeting and leadership skills, and I'm very interested in helping this board be successful. So I love arts and music, and I think that'll be a big part of what we talk about. I've been the chair of I'm the chair of the Riverfront Commission right now, and the vice chair of sustainability in the past. And I was the board chair for Riverlink for 2 years. So I learned a lot, and I have those experiences as well as my interest in the economy. I've been involved in the URAD, the United River Arts District Group, since the beginning, and there's another meeting tomorrow, I think. Amy goes to those too, and Katie and Jeffrey, a lot of us. So I've kept up with what people are struggling with and what artists are needing and so forth now. So I have a blend of background, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. John Ellis.
Good morning. I'm sorry I couldn't make the initial meeting on the training session, was out of town. I'm John Ellis. I moved to Asheville in '97, kind of during the nascent points of the revitalization of downtown. I'm the former managing director of the Wortham Center for the Performing Arts, retired. Since then, I've remained active in various committees and boards on the area. I also served at one time on the Chamber of Commerce Board and the Tourism Development Authority Board. So happy to be here, but looking around this table, it's a table full of leaders. So this is going to be interesting because leaders always seem to have strong opinions, because I think if you're an effective leader, you have strong opinions. But there is that great expression, strong opinions held weakly, in the sense that we have strong opinions, but we have to listen to each other. We have to be aware of others. And I think that would be the skill that I can bring. We're not all certain exactly what this group is going to be doing. The mayor has said that she will be coming to us for advice, counsel, recommendations, and decisions. So I anticipate there's going to be some very active conversations at this table. And that would be the skill that I might bring in various chairs of committees, grant panels, et cetera, of being able to refocus, steer, guide the discussions ensure that every voice is heard, and I think that's what I would bring to the table, because I think, as I say, we do have these strong opinions. After listening to each other, we have to be prepared to change. I think as George Bernard Shaw, the great playwright, said, those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. It's also been my pleasure to work with Chris. I'm also chair of the Community Entertainment Facilities Commission, formerly known as Civic Center Commission, and with Ashley for years. So, thank you.
Great, thank you. Jeffrey?
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, so thank you for your time. Thank you for your consideration. I think especially since the storm, I've had a proven track record of the recovery and economic process in terms of the relationship between workforce development, resilience, and a creative economy. I think I also represent small businesses that have been directly impacted since the storm, and am hands and feet on the ground witnessing and experiencing the loss every day. Interestingly enough, sometimes we find ourselves in a position that we're uniquely qualified for based on random experiences over 20 years as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as an artist. This city is something that I never anticipated to come to 5 years ago. I think I can offer some perspective in terms of how and what we are currently going through. And just in my own experience as a small business owner over the last 20 years and creating jobs, and also trying to work with different forces since since everything has happened, whether it was us working with the city or working with different organizations. And and I agree actually with John that when we talk about leadership, and I think so many of us are definitely in a place that can lead a room, but I think one of the most important things is to be able to have capacity to listen. And while I think I was pretty decent at that before the storm has taught me that with great humility and just with great resounding, that the more we can make space and listen to each other and the projects, the better Asheville will be. And that's something that I'm just greatly, greatly committed to with such force and passion, that I think that we are in a great position to be able to help define and create a successful, vibrant, resilient, and creative future for this city. So thank you so much for your consideration.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So now's a great time for a discussion. If you have any questions of any of the candidates, if anybody's ready to make a motion, the floor is y'all's.
I'll bite. So I know some of you and also respect all of you very much. So I want to share that. So, and I thought about this morning because I have personal relationships with some of you too. And I thought, what would I do? The storm has been kind of an all-consuming project for me personally. I mean, this is something I work on every day, and I know that also Jeffrey works on it every day. A lot of these acronyms and words and buckets and strategies and the conversations about what's possible in terms of small or short-term, medium-term, long-term, we talk about this literally every day. So I would say that is something that is, I don't know what you all are working on. I know you're working on different things. I just personally know that Jeffrey works on it every day. And so I know that you are going to have a head start in terms of this conversation. So I'm making that comment. I don't know what I'm supposed to do now procedurally, if I should make a nomination or if more people want to speak, but I just wanted to share that because I believe that you have that head start because of what we do every day. But.
Thank you.
I believe you can make a nomination and discussions can still happen and still ultimately have someone nominate someone else, correct? Yes. Yeah. So you're welcome to if you want to, or continue discussions, just fine.
Well, I'd like to hear from other people. Maybe they don't think that's the most relevant quality. To me, that's the thing that broke the tie for me. But.
I think there's something to be said for people that have been in the community for a long time and have a lot of experience leading the commission as well as involved in different aspects of the community and not just in one particular district. So I'll just put that in there too.
I'd also just like to say too, like, as one of the founding members of Unified Rad and kind of converging all of these different components together, I'm also active within the downtown scene. Again, it tends to be on more of the creative side, but, our gallery has been leading and spearheading and working with Ashley to bring back DAD. So I think while I am somebody who is very much kind of known as a face in the River Arts District, my commitment, I just want to also stay, is to this city, this very, very great city. So I have a lot of passion and we need a lot of help downtown. I know we're facing that every day there as well. So it's really fun to be in two places that are in real need right now.
I'd like to hear a little bit more from you. Yes. I'd like to, I want to hear a little bit more about your involvement after the storm, what you're doing today, what you're seeing in terms of future of economics for Asheville. I'm putting you on the spot, if that's all right with you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, as the chair of the Asheville Buncombe Riverfront Commission, we got involved, my chair and vice chair got involved in talking to the artists and and property owners and business owners, especially in the RAD, trying to understand what the challenges were, how we could get involved and be of assistance. Because part of what the Riverfront Commission does is help with economic development and all those things along not only the RAD, but the whole region, the Swanano all the way to Black Mountain and Woodfin. So we've had, we didn't meet like nobody met that whole year, but we kept in touch and talked to people and interviewed and asked questions and that sort of thing. So that was very helpful for me to understand what we need to do now as we move forward. And then when this board came out, I thought, well, I could do infrastructure because that might seem more obvious. But this, to me, felt like it would be more, just add a new experience and also bring other things together that I hadn't necessarily been involved with. Now, I obviously love arts, and I've talked a lot with Jeffrey and Katie. We've been involved in, I forget what it was, the leadership for the RAD or something?
Steering committee for the charrette. The
Yeah.
Sasaki steering.
Yeah, and so, I'm not a paid artist or anything like that, but I learned that. And I think one of the most important things is for us to keep moving forward, and making decisions after discussion, but definitely keeping in mind timelines and what we need to accomplish. And I have a lot of experience with leading those sorts of things and making sure we get where we need to be.
Thank you. So I love that we have leaders in the room. My definition of a great leader is a great follower. And what I mean by that is that you're listening, you're paying attention, and you're working with the people that you're working for. It's about service. And so I'm looking forward to new perspectives as also a newbie to Asheville. I think you're always a newbie, maybe, right? You could be here 20 years, you're still a newbie. Okay, so I'm an outsider. But I do want to see some fresh perspectives, and my hope is those of you who have been grounded in this community for 20, 30, 40, 50, maybe your whole lifetime, that you're going to be lifting up the people who are leading us forward. And so I'm looking forward to some new perspective and some new energy, maybe an outside perspective, so to speak. And then those of us who have been here, or those of you who have been here, are going to lead the way in terms of being great followers, right? I don't have a nomination, that's just comments.
That's fair.
Chris, can I just ask, in terms of, I know we're short-lived board, in terms of how long we're anticipating to be doing our work. So whoever is leading as chair, vice chair, what training they will get. So if they've not had prior experience leading a board, what will that entail, so that we are able to get moving very quickly with an effective chair and vice chair?
The clerk's office has a chair and vice chair, like an officer's training. I believe it's recorded and available. And there's also like a packet that's just a few pages of like, here's what you need to know. And then obviously, if there's more questions after that, we can get Alex from the clerk's office to have just a one-on-one conversation.
And you'll continue to guide the chair and vice chair in their work?
I'm here for chair and vice chair through the end.
Got it. Thank you.
So as one of the lead arts advocates for the city of Asheville and Buncombe County, I am ecstatic that there's so much focus on the arts on this panel. I mean, this has kind of been unheard of. So this is fantastic. But I'm also curious from the 4 nominees about your experience non-arts. Like, I think we want, definitely the arts are important for our economy, but they're not the only thing. So definitely want to hear more about small business support and those pieces.
Yeah, and I'll speak to that, and it's interesting because I was thinking, Alexandria, about what you were saying, and I think it's important to have a lot of perspectives, you know, not just who's on the board, but outside, and I keep thinking, one, about young people and having a fresh perspective who always get discredited because they don't have the experience, which they see the world through a different lens than we do, which I think is really important. And I think, and I say that because that also goes to the other industries, right? I'm so excited to see the arts so represented here, but I think that's also another thing that's important, is making sure that we collectively have connections to the rest of the industries, especially small business, right? And I think having those, not just those connections to the small businesses, which I feel very fortunate that I've had the opportunity to work with. And I think that they're all pieces of a puzzle that fit together, right? I love to say that there's art in business or art in anything you do, and it's making all of the pieces fit together. And I think that there's ways that we can, you know, those of us that have experience in the arts can use those skills to capitalize. We did something like that for when Billy Strings was in town at Harrah's for 8 days. I worked with the merchants of downtown Asheville and the Downtown Association, and we did a bingo card and gave them out at the show to encourage people to go and be patrons of the local small businesses in February. And I think that's something, you know, there's lots of creative ways to look at those things. And I think, again, to John's point, it comes down to actually doing the work. I've definitely been on boards where there's a lot of good ideas, but nobody actually wants to put the time and energy into it. And so I think that that's important. And also, I keep thinking about this quote that I heard that was, you can get a lot done when you don't care who gets the credit for it. Right? So I think that's important to remember just in all of this, is like, you know, whatever serves our community to that capacity. I think there's also opportunities for other partnerships, just not just with educational organizations in the community. I mean, part of the 5x5 plan that the city has for economic development is with 5 universities and that sort of thing. And so I think that's important to see, how do we bridge those gaps between the university, but also continuing education, which I think is also important. So how do we continue to leverage those points that we have through universities to help people who aren't in school, who are beyond that. And I think with looking at how many things are going to get automated in the future, and we look at AI, I think that's another thing to keep in mind, is how do we keep fresh perspectives and keep learning from other people and other things. So yeah, I just like I said, I just think about all of those different things, all of the different industries, from small businesses to manufacturing to the education components to all of those. I think they all play a vital role, and I think it's really important that we are able to bridge those gaps between all of them.
I'll just briefly note that I read the materials that you sent along, and thank you for that. And I read your statement, and I think and read your statement as well. And certainly, I think Ann was being asked, what's your background and whatnot. And I know a little bit about you just in passing, EPA and sort of an environmental background, and I think that brings a lot of relevance in terms of how we're moving forward, both with our built environment and our natural environment, and the way that's, blending up with all things economy. And I'm here, I'll freely admit, somewhat awkwardly, as a representative from the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. I work for a local home builder, urban planner, 20 years. So all that being said, it would definitely make both a voice for both Ann and Jeffrey, representing sort of two different spheres in terms of focus, and whether that's chair or vice chair, just putting that out for discussion. I felt like you both bring a lot of, at least from what I read on paper, it was both very eloquent, and in terms of a focus on both getting things done in a timely schedule and manner, and also just realizing a lot of different moving parts. So I guess I'm quickly making a voice for both of you, chair or vice chair. Throw that out for a quick discussion.
Yeah, thank you. I do agree that the combination of environment and the economy part is really important, and that was one of the reasons I was interested in trying this. I thought it would be a real a growth opportunity, but also, unknown expertise that you have from years doing something else. I did not run a small business. I've never had one. But I have read a lot of grant applications and had to deal with the government, just let me say. I know how that goes. I know it's enough to make your hair turn white. So it is a challenge, and I know we're going to go through a lot of that stuff. So, there's an aspect of that that's unfortunately going to be part of what we have to do. But so I have some of that. I think it is really great. We have a lot of expertise here, as John said. And thank you for your comments too, Scott.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. And, I think that there's so much work that we can do. And also having, in my very, very first early life in New York City, the very first company that I ever started was an environmental arts nonprofit organization. It was one of the first in the country. Coined the term eco-theater, created what is really now the baseline gold standard practice in sustainable theater measures, which is kind of interesting and cool, and got nominated for a 30 Under 30 by it. So I think that while, environment and arts is so important, and we need to kind of keep that at a precedent when you look at the affected corridors directly in Asheville and who was affected. But also, we need to remember to consider our fabulous service industry folks, all the restaurants that have been directly impacted, so many small businesses in downtown and in the River Arts District and across Asheville have been directly impacted, not even some of them directly by water or mud, but still from the economic decline that has happened. And some of that is here post-recovery, and some of it is because of what's happening in the country. So we're all being directly impacted, and time is of the essence. We are at a place right now, I know people that are in need, and we need to move faster than 6 years if we want to keep as many of our fabulous small businesses open. One of the things that I found so exciting when I first moved to Asheville is, we're this wonderful, small city, big town, but I don't think I've ever been to a place that has had so many small businesses. And there's a reason that can be successful in a town like Asheville. We have a huge tourism economy that helps support that. And with that loss right now, we have a lot of gaps to fill. There's a lot of potential to explore through this process. And what we can lead is how we can continue to create a living wage here in this city by programs, hopefully, that will come to our table and, talk about workforce development, continued education, that will have lasting impressions on this community where we're raising up and creating space for young people to be able to stay, and we're not losing them to other cities. So I think this is a really, really great foundation into the hope and passion and vibrancy that we can continue to grow Asheville.
Yeah, you're right. I think we're all living through a Helene hangover.
Yeah.
I just want to say, we're in a phenomenal position because all of you are really amazing. And no matter how the vote turns out today, we are still going to benefit from everyone's input throughout this entire process. So just with that context in mind, I will say I do think it's it's important to have that extra perspective on maybe being an entrepreneur or a business owner, especially in the majority of businesses here in this community are of that size. So I like that perspective. And I also think it's really great to have this insight and working outside of the Asheville area. You know, I mean, you've got some amazing projects, Jessica, that are happening in other cities. And I know, Jeffrey, you also have a breadth of experience in outside of Asheville area. And so I think just combining those with some deep roots in Asheville as well, I think those are really winning combinations for leadership in this board. So I guess if I want to go ahead and make nominations, I would nominate Jessica and Jeffrey for the 2 open positions.
To get specific, for which person for which seat?
Start with the chair.
Let's start with chair, and then we'll do vice chair.
Can you guys decide?
I would make an argument for Jessica as chair and Jeffrey as vice chair.
Second.
Let's do chair first. You know, you have
One
a
round.
nomination, and then we'll do a separate
Okay.
one for vice chair and see if there's other nominations. So for chair, nominated for Jessica. I'm sorry,
But-
say your last name.
Thompson.
Thompson, sorry.
Okay.
And then we had
I'll second that.
the second that.
Well, you firsted it.
Oh, I thought Pat did.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
okay.
I think you nominated.
Oh, I nominated.
And the
Yes.
second,
It was John.
John, okay.
any other, well, we could go through that vote, or we could see if there's another nomination as well.
I would make a motion to nominate Jeffrey for chair.
Is there a second for that?
I second.
Okay. So what do we do, lawyer?
So we'll do the first vote, knowing that those nominations are both out there. So we'll do the first vote for Jessica for chair, and then vote. And if you say no, just know that it's not because, you know, it's probably because you're going to go the other way. So,
And people can vote for themselves?
yes, they can.
All right, and so we have 10 individuals here, which means we need 6 to nominate, or to officially appoint somebody, correct?
You need the majority.
The
vote,
majority.
A majority vote.
So that would be
yes.
6. Okay, got it. So on the floor is a vote, and we have to do a roll call vote, like we did earlier for the minutes, for Jessica Thomason as chair. Scott Adams,
Nay?
sorry. Cheryl Antonic Seuss,
Nay.
Michelle's not here. Ann Keller,
Nay.
John Ellis,
Aye.
Pat Kappas,
Aye.
Jessica Thomason,
Aye.
Katie Cornell,
Aye.
Amy Kelly,
Nay.
Alexandra Monique Ravenel,
Nay.
Jeffrey Burrows.
Nay.
All right. So that motion fails. All right, so then we would act on the second. So Scott nominated Jeffrey for chair, seconded by Alexandria. So we'll go down the same. Scott Adams.
Aye.
Aye. Cheryl Antonic Seuss.
Aye.
Ann Keller.
Aye.
John Ellis.
Aye.
Pat Kappas.
Aye.
Jessica Thomason.
Aye.
Katie Cornell.
Aye.
Amy Kelly.
Aye.
Alexandra Monique Ravenel.
Aye.
Jeffrey Burrows.
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. All right, so now we would be looking for a a movement to nominate vice chair.
I move to nominate Jessica Thomason, vice chair.
Great.
Second.
Second, so that's, sorry, John.
I move to nominate Ann Keller for vice chair.
Okay,
I second.
okay, so John. sorry, Scott, and then Alexandria. All right, so same process? All right, so first we're moving through a motion for Jessica Thomason as vice chair. I need to make a new tally. Hold on a second.
Thanks for doing this on the fly.
Yeah, no worries. All right, down the list again, Scott Adams.
Aye.
This is for Jessica.
This is for Jessica. For vice chair. Sorry.
Apologize. Nay. Thank you.
Copy. Cheryl?
Nay.
Ann Keller?
Nay.
John Ellis?
Aye.
Pat Kappas?
Aye.
Jessica Thomason?
Aye.
Katie Cornell?
Aye.
Amy Kelly?
Aye.
Alexandria?
Nay.
Jeffrey Burrows?
Aye.
That's 6, so that passes. So do we then do the other vote? Or that passed, so that happened?
It passed, so it happened. Because yeah, that sounds really legal. Just happened. No, so that's a positive vote. So yes, that passed.
All right,
And
so-
I don't think we need to go on to the other vote unless for some reason we want to go through the exercise, but I don't think if you've got 6 that you're going to get that again for Ms. Keller.
Got it, okay.
The motion just be withdrawn, is that how that works?
You can go ahead and withdraw it, or if you want to do the vote. we can
Whoever
go
made
through
it, I didn't make it, I was just saying that would be, I would think you would do.
Scott, do you want to go through, do you want to withdraw, or do you want to go through a vote? Because I don't think, again, we've already got the nomination, so.
I'll stand with the nomination.
Great, all right. Sold. So Jeffrey is chair, Jessica Thomason, vice chair, moving forward for the next meetings. Thank you, congratulations. It's great. All right. So next up on our agenda would be just a review and then final approval of the rules and procedures. I'm going to pass around a printed off copy here. This was in the packet in advance. Hopefully you guys had a chance to look through it. This is a great time for questions about the rules and procedures because we have our amazing lawyer here that can help speak to any specific questions. And this will be signed by the chair once it's voted on and approved by the board. So, did anybody have any questions about the rules and procedures leading up to the meeting? Wonderful. And if not, similar to our other votes, we would need a motion, a second, and then we would do a roll call vote. But if there's any questions or discussion, we can certainly do that first.
Move approval of the Economy Recovery Board Rules of Procedure.
Thank you, John.
Second.
And a second. All right, any discussion? No? All right.
I guess I would just like to say, so this is a new board. So what you'll see are references to how this board was created. It was a new ordinance that created these particular recovery boards. For those of you who have been on boards and commissions for a long time, this is a template we're trying to get uniform rules of procedure for all of our boards and then including the new boards. So there are many things that are the same if you're familiar with our old ones, but there are just a few changes that make sure that we're all consistent, including our ability to have hybrid virtual and in-person meetings. So we can do that. And it used to be that if you had a virtual meeting or a hybrid meeting, whoever was participating virtually, their vote didn't count, but that's been changed in these rules. So people can participate virtually. So that's probably one of the main changes. And nobody has questions about subcommittees because people always have questions about a subcommittee.
I feel like that was really clear in the initial training.
Good.
Very clear.
It was very clear.
Basically, now we're clear that a subcommittee needs to be approved by the staff liaison or if that's needed. And subcommittees act as boards and commissions, meaning that you have to notice the meeting, and that can take a lot of extra staff time. So to the extent you can get things done together as a committee, that's preferable.
Great.
I do have one very quick minor question under public decorum, under audio expressions. That's basically prohibiting clapping or noise, but the joke about, at least at city council, about jazz hands or thumbs up is okay. Is it clarifying that?
It doesn't tell you what it is, but you want to tell everyone.
Well, essentially, just for everyone's quick background, it's the last page there. It's just saying, basically during a public meeting, no clapping or yelling or, that's terrible or whatever, sort of a quick outburst. And that's both from any audience, either online or in person and amongst us. So I think it's fine to, give a nod or a thumbs up. That's my quick read of that. So just
That
clarifying
is, and
that.
then a lot of rules of procedure don't talk about what the public decorum is, so this is just adding that in because you have seen that at council. So I guess jazz hands, this is our base board, is okay.
Jazz hands, thumbs up, anything non-offensive, I think is.
But the chair can also set timeframes if it's something that when you're expecting a lot of input. The chair's role is to try to keep it organized, and so that's where that comes in as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so if no further questions, discussion, we can get through a roll call vote. All right. Down the same order. Scott?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Jessica? Aye. Katie?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Alexandra?
Aye.
Jeffrey?
Aye.
Great. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to our second to last item, last one before public comment, and invite James Shelton with our Community and Economic Development Department to the floor to give us a brief update on small business grants and CDBG DR 101. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you, Chris. Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, board members. Welcome to your first meeting. I'm James Shelton, Community Development Division Manager here at the City of Asheville. It's an honor to be the first person to ever present to this board. This will be the first time that I'm here of many, so you're all going to hear my voice, as well as my colleague Elma King. A lot. Elma is our CDBG DR program manager. She's been with us for about 3 months now. I've been with the city since 3 weeks before Helene. So the job that I took at the city is not the job that I have now, which is why we have Elma here with us. None of the jobs that we have now are the jobs that we had September 26th last year. So, back in January, we received a direct allocation of Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Funding to the tune of $225 million. Now, when I say received, I mean, we had to go through a process in order to finally get to be able to access that funding. And I'll talk you through that process a little bit today, but we now have full grant authority at this time to be able to start implementing projects, and we're doing that. So we're super happy to start being able to engage with these recovery boards. Y'all are the first one. I'll be at the Housing Recovery Board here in a couple of weeks talking about housing programs, but we actually have housing programs rolling out. We have economic revitalization programs rolling out right now. We're very happy to have y'all here to be a part of our team to help move these things forward. So thank y'all for being a part of this, and we're super happy to have you. As I mentioned, since Helene, we've got that $225 million allocation in January. We had to go through an action planning process, which involved a lot of community engagement, a lot of listening, a lot of data analysis. We collected tons of comments. We got more comments on our action plan than the state got on theirs. By the way, the state of North Carolina got a $1.4 billion with a B allocation through the same type of funding. Ours is $225. We got more comments because we're better than them. Final allocations, as well as all of our program allocations, we adjusted that based on public comment. So what you have in our action plan now is truly a community-driven plan. What I will emphasize today, and what I've emphasized to council, is that this plan is a beginning, it's a start, and it can and should and will change. Thank you. Oh, thank y'all. I'm sorry about that live stream. So at this time, we've begun rolling out programs that our community indicated were priorities for us to to prioritize early on once we had the full ability to start implementing programs, and that is small business support. Hi, here we are today. We're going to talk about small business support. The other is home repair. That's underway as well. Infrastructure and planning are also being geared up to get started here internally at the city too. So that small business support program is underway, and this board will be engaged throughout that process. So I think when Chris put me on the agenda for this, he said James Shelton magic. So here I am to do some CDBG DR 101 magic. So things to keep in mind, that the road ahead is long. This funding is not easy. It comes with blankets of red tape, and it requires a lot of administrative work to get it out the door. It's not free money. It comes with a lot of restrictions and requirements. So it just takes us a little while to get things moving. We appreciate our community's patience, but we've got this program out for looking for partners right now for the small business support program. But this funding is expected to continue through 2031. It's a 6-year timeline. It's intended for long-term recovery and resilience. As I mentioned, our action plan is a beginning, and it will be amended. We're very early in our process. Communities that receive a community development block grant, disaster recovery grant, typically are about 1.5 to 2 years after their disaster. We got ours 3 months after our disaster. Typically, you have a very clear picture of what your recovery looks like. I don't know who's behind me. I have no idea who's behind me. I'm not turning around. So we are very early in our recovery when we receive this funding. So our needs at the time, we're still trying to understand that, and so our needs now are also evolving, and we're going to have to evolve as we move forward. I appreciate what someone said earlier, like if you're not listening, if you're not willing to change, you're not a change maker. So we have to be able to adapt and change as we move forward. DR is intended to work with other recovery resources. It's actually intended to be the funding of last resort. So it's expected to be that this thing comes in after all other opportunities have been exhausted. I'll talk a little bit about our funding allocations with this 225. We bucketed into like kind of 3 major buckets. And those 3 buckets are based on an unmet needs assessment that we did earlier this year. That unmet needs assessment looks at specific damages, but also includes wider impacts of the disaster. So for example, if a resident had to move, even if their house wasn't physically impacted, did a business have to reduce hours or close? That's an indirect impact of the storm. Even if that business didn't have a tree fall on it or get flooded, that's an impact. We also look at needs not recognized or addressed by other programs. FEMA might help build back to a pre-disaster state, but how can we use these funds, and this is its intent, to invest in mitigation measures that decrease the risk of loss in future disasters? This funding is intended to be the additional. FEMA will get you back what you lost. This funding will get you back beyond that. We look at individual impacts and community impacts in our program. Again, I'm going to say this all the time, needs change, and we'll have to reevaluate. So this is the classical colonnade of DR funding. The first major pillar of this program is that any activity that we undertake must tie back to the disaster. If you can't identify a clear direct or indirect tie back, we cannot fund that program. We cannot do that activity. The next pillar is that the activity must meet a national objective. And the 3 national objectives are benefiting low to moderate income individuals or areas, addressing urgent needs, or preventing or eliminating slums or blight. Number 1 is where we are for the most part. Number 1 is the major requirement. 70% of our funds must do number 1. 30% of it will probably do number 2, and number 3 likely won't even be a thing in this program, because our urgent needs and our LMI needs are such that that's just what we're going to do. But 70% of our funds will go to low to moderate income individuals. With our steady state, we're an entitlement community, so we get about $1 million every year in steady state community development block grant funding. We typically do about 100% of that funding to LMI. We don't do urgent need, we do 100% to benefit LMI. And the third is that the activity must qualify as an eligible activity. You can't just do whatever you want with these funds. You have to do specific things that the Department of Housing and Urban Development says you can do. So it's activities like housing, infrastructure, economic revitalization, and mitigation. And mitigation is kind of woven into all the other Let's talk about that action plan. So as I mentioned, we underwent an unmet needs assessment earlier this year, and our unmet needs at the time, back in the spring, that we were able to identify with the data we had, were that we had $1.1 billion of unmet need in our community, with the biggest need being in infrastructure, the second in economic revitalization, and the third in housing. So if you see the percent of need there, that column should pretty well match what you see in the percent allocation of our funding there on the far right. However, we as a community heard that we should definitely be prioritizing housing recovery more than just that 2.8% of our grant. That would have been grossly insufficient is what we heard from our community, so we made sure that we are addressing that housing need in our program by bumping that up to 31 rather than 2.8% would have been about 3 million, which is just grossly nowhere close to being enough. $125 million to infrastructure, and then for this board, the $52 million in economic revitalization funding is what we're going to be coming to y'all to talk about. And we'll talk a little bit more about that today. During our community engagement that we undertook back in the spring, we heard a lot of really great things from our community around how we should prioritize and utilize the economic revitalization funding. We definitely heard that a bigger portion of the funding should go to small business investments and grants. We heard that the plan needs to emphasize arts and cultural businesses. We heard that Asheville needs an economic diversification. So while arts and culture is definitely important, we also want to make sure that we are diversifying our economy to be resilient for whatever future economic shocks we might experience moving forward, and a need to do strategic planning and to pilot projects early on. This is a sample of the public comment participants. These are just a few of the organizations that we heard from. Y'all see a lot of local businesses here, local organizations, nonprofits, for-profits, a lot of really great folks. This is just a sample of all the people that we heard from while we were undertaking our public comment process. So within that $52 million economic revitalization bucket, this is y'all's world here. The biggest one is the revitalization of flooded commercial districts. This is a program that we are undertaking a planning effort right now to hear about what should we actually do with that. We know it's going to be something in the construction realm. It's going to be something to build something that will help revitalize our flooded commercial districts. But what exactly that looks like, we want to do a little bit more detailed planning before we go out seeking a development partner to figure out what that's going to do. And we're already underway with doing that planning effort right now. There's actually already been a lot of planning. There's been a lot of surveys, a lot of comment that we're bringing in and synthesizing that we're able to lean on that River Arts District and Biltmore and Swananoa groups have already done to kind of say this is what we would envision. And we want to kind of come back with a, did we hear you right? Before we start saying this is what we're going to do with that $30 million, but y'all will be a part of that. This is a public comment forum. This is a place where y'all can provide input on what that should look like. The workforce, I'll talk about small business, but workforce development is another one that we are prioritizing second. That program is intended to skill up our local labor force to be part of the recovery. So that will look like providing free training, free education, free skills workshops for folks to be in the construction industry, green energy, wetland restoration, riverbank, that kind of stuff. We still kind of want to hear what exactly that looks like, but that program will very much be a how do we invest in our local talent so that they are skilled up and able to get good paying jobs and be a part of the recovery over the long term. Small business support, $17 million. Let's talk about that. The purpose of that program is to restore and revitalize Asheville's small business sector, which serves as a foundational pillar of our local economy. The goals of this are to promote economic stabilization and continuity for impacted small businesses in Asheville. We are going to prioritize job creation and retention activities that benefit LMI persons. There's that number one goal, right? 70% of our funds must benefit LMI persons. I'm not going to get too much in the weeds today about how we measure that in an economic program, but just keep that front of mind is everything that we do, we are looking to see how is this benefiting people who, for a family of four, typically make about $74,000 or less. That's our target household income. Family of four, y'all can go online and see what all the other family size numbers are, but family of four is about $74,000 a year in our community. We're also going to be looking to leverage local partnerships to extend the reach of this program. So what does the delivery model of this look like? So the city is not funding small businesses directly. We are going to be looking, and we are looking, to partner with subrecipients that we're calling partners through a competitive notice of funding opportunity. We actually have that out right now. We are receiving applications at this time. We have just closed our our notice of intent to apply window has closed. We have received a lot of questions, and we are posting those online. They have been posted online to our Asheville Recovers webpage, so y'all can go see any questions that we received as a part of this initial process. We've posted our official responses to those questions. So we expect to be making awards later in 2026, January. But for now, the minimum award that we'll be doing for subrecipients is $250,000, and the maximum award for subrecipients is $10 million. So how does that money actually get into the hands of businesses? Well, we're kind of at this step 3 right now, where we've gotten the money from the feds, we've done our action plan, and now we're seeking those subrecipient partners. So those look like 501c3 nonprofit organizations, other local public agencies, or accredited public or nonprofit universities, community colleges, or technical institutions. And then the end beneficiary, businesses don't come to the city of Asheville to get grant funding or technical assistance. They should be going to those subrecipient partners that we will have agreements with to seek assistance. And those businesses are privately owned, for-profit enterprises that meet the SBA size standards for their primary industry. They should maintain a principal place of business within the city limits of Asheville and be independently owned and operated and not dominant in their field of operation. I can get into those weeds if you want to. I hope y'all are writing questions down as I'm cruising through this stuff. So here's kind of the hierarchy of how our CDBG-DR program works. Is we've talked about that action plan, and that's informed by our unmet needs, by the recovery priority survey, our business impact survey that we did. That action plan then spills into our program manual that talks about how do we actually go about making decisions and implementing this program for our community. It's a practical operational tool. It's online at ashevillerecovers.org. Y'all are encouraged to go and look at that program manual. And that program manual then feeds into the notice of funding opportunity that specifies the very specific activities that we are looking to fund, and it offers a tangible application opportunity for subrecipients and partners to implement the program with us. The NOFO for business grants, it was informed by sessions with small business support organizations. That's something we would love to be able to use this body for in the future. Y'all didn't exist at the time when we wanted to roll this program out, but that would be something we would have loved to have had y'all for. We're super glad that you're here now, so that as we're moving this program forward, as well as launching other programs, this is where we're gonna come to have that really good engagement about what are those programmatic specifics that we need to be thinking about when we're putting a notice of funding opportunity out, seeking partners. Y'all are gonna help us figure out what does that look like. So another notice of funding opportunity will be going out for mitigation, and that is what we consider like technical assistance for business resilience. So we do expect our subrecipients that we're looking to partner with right now for business grants to provide technical assistance to businesses to get into the grant program, how to fill out an application, how to make sure you're qualified, and we'll be doing a separate NOFO for mitigation. That's where businesses can go to a partner organization and get resilience planning, strategic planning. How do I adopt disaster recovery, resilient type strategies? How do I adopt technology that's going to help me be more resilient to future disasters? So what's the timeline? I'm going to drink a sip of water. We have to get y'all some AshevilleRecovers.org stickers, by the way, if y'all don't have those. They're great. So we've done a lot since January this year. So back in the spring, we did our community engagement process. We did our first draft of an action plan. And then in April, we took that final plan to City Council. And then we submitted that plan to HUD, and they approved it in May. Since May, we undertook a significant process to establish policies, procedures, and these program manuals that govern how we operate. We do a steady state CDBG program every year. It's $1 million. We have policies and procedures in place that tell us how we do that program. We did not have that for this program. we had to create brand-new policies and procedures that inform how our staff will move this program forward and stay compliant with HUD regulations. So it was policy summer here at the city of Asheville, developing all of those policy programs, those program manuals and policies and procedures. In August, we got our grant agreement executed by HUD. They said your policies and procedures look good. You can now move forward with implementing programs. And then since August, we've been finalizing, posting those program manuals and holding further stakeholder engagement activities. Back in October, we brought on an implementation vendor and a partner organization to help us roll this program forward. They're an organization called Tetra Tech, and they have a ton of experience doing disaster recovery work. We're super happy to have them on board helping us. And they are helping us do NOFO preparation, helping us do everything kind of behind the scenes, keeping us compliant and moving this program forward efficiently. That NOFO is now out for small business support grants. So that is live now. We're receiving applications through December 2nd. Thank you, Alma. And then in December, we'll begin our eligibility review and a competitive selection process based upon the criteria for selection that's in that NOFO. And then we'll begin program development with those recommended subrecipients in December and into January. In January, we will go to the Planning, Economic Development, and Environment Council Committee with our subrecipient recommendations. We'll go to council for a consent for contract execution, and then move forward with contingent awards to subrecipients. We'll then, in February, be doing technical assistance for developing our program manuals for our subrecipient partners. They can adopt ours, and they got to have their own too. That's not me making the rules. That's the Fed saying, if you're going to partner with us on a DR program, you got to have your own policies, procedures, and a program manual about how you're going to operate, and you got to follow it. We'll then move forward with agreement execution and notice to proceed to those organizations. The projects launch. They can commence the approved activities in compliance with federal and city requirements. And I know that little blue box down there at the far right says that we're anticipating engaging the Recovery Board for information sharing and advocacy throughout this program. That box, if I could put it everywhere on this chart, I would. I'm not a graphic designer, but it's there because I want y'all to know that y'all are going to be a part of this throughout. So I'll probably be here. Elma will be here at every one of these meetings. So, yeah. So we're right now seeking potential subrecipient applications. We have a 30-day window. It closes December 2nd. They can apply to provide citywide service or target geographic or sectoral needs. That NOFO, please go read it. It's 50-something pages. It outlines the eligible activities, the funding limits, timelines, required documentation, and evaluation information, how we're going to evaluate those applications. And we'll use a standardized evaluation rubric for competitive scoring. Applicants will be scored on alignment with recovery goals, community impact, readiness, and leveraging of resources. Our threshold requirements include organizational capacity to actually implement the darn thing and financial stability. Program delivery and experience. Has an organization done this kind of work in the past, and are they ready to comply with the blankets of red tape? So our award recommendations will be made contingent on eligibility, an environmental review, and DOB, that's duplication of benefit clearance. That's another thread in the red tape blanket. So our next steps, we released and advertised that NOFO on Halloween. It wasn't scary, but we got it done though. Our application materials are available at ashevillerecovers.org/cdbgdr. Proposals are due to our cdbg-dr@asheville.nc.gov email address by December 2nd at 5 p.m. We'll then conduct our eligibility review and evaluations, and we'll conduct recovery board engagement throughout the implementation for this program for information sharing with you guys, asking you to help us be a megaphone, as well as advocating for this program. And then we'll make recommendations to the PEDE committee for approval prior to going to city council in January. Those are the key takeaways. Happy to take any of y'all's questions. Thank you.
I just have one question. So the letter of intent was due, I think, like November 14th. So did you have to do the letter of intent in order to apply by the December 2nd deadline? Yeah, okay, just checking.
I have some technical questions about the process, like things that have come to me through various boards that I'm on. I don't know if this is the right forum to do that in, but.
Try it.
Okay, for example, if a company is a franchise, or a business is a franchise, like they've signed a license agreement, and they're independently owned, they're owned by a guy who lives in Biltmore Forest, but he's got a license agreement to have distribution, broader than, for example, a McDonald's. Is that considered, and I believe I know the answer because Alexandria and I were in a meeting where this was discussed, but is there an official position on whether that is an independently owned business and that meets the small business requirements of the program?
If they can demonstrate that they are independently owned and operated, yes. But that is a demonstration that has to happen. I can't say that, yes, that specific situation would be, but what would have to happen is our subrecipient partner would look at the ownership structure and say, are you able to financially and independently make decisions? Yes, you might be operating as a franchise, but if they're not corporately owned, now some franchises are corporately owned, and that is outright verboten. No. Okay.
Got it. And then there was a lot of discussion in the small business, the group that met to inform this process. We had a lot of discussion about how much of this money is really geared toward recovering from the storm, or should it be like more strategic in the sense that we're trying to like expand our community in various areas generally? And it seems like what you're suggesting is that there has to be a pretty clear tie back. Like, is there a preference for businesses that were actually impacted by the storm, or is it neutral with respect to that?
It's both. So what we're looking for in subrecipient proposals is the ability to say, how are we addressing that, yes, direct and indirect tie back to businesses that existed before the storm and supporting them, and looking at business diversification and risk reduction in the face of future events. So there is an opportunity to say, there was an outsized loss of businesses in sector broomsticks, right? So we want to definitely bring back the broomstick sector. So how do we make investments in a new entrepreneurial enterprise that's going to bring back that sector that maybe got wiped out? I know that's a bad example for this community, but it was recently Halloween, so.
So does that mean that businesses that weren't in existence at the time of the storm can avail themselves of the?
They can.
Okay.
Have those industries been identified, those sectors? And how would that process be done?
That would be done by the subrecipient organization, backed up by data. So you would have to show in data that there was a significant business loss, job loss in a certain sector, and say we're attempting to bring back and invest in that sector so that it can be flourishing again. So that's not us. That's us passing that on to a partner organization to say, if you're going to invest in that type of business that did not exist before the storm, why? And they need to back it up with data.
A quick question. So to be clear, the subrecipients are going to independently come up with eligibility requirements for those small businesses, or is the city going to have, is that something that's going to be done in tandem with them?
It'll be done in partnership with us. Okay. So with their proposals, they should be proposing their selection process, how they're going to go about prioritizing in alignment with our program manual. Mm-hmm. That's their starting point, is looking at our action plan, looking at our program manual and our policies. And they have to abide by those first before they go about proposing anything aside from that. And then they can develop their own program proposal to say, this is how we're going to move forward with a prioritization. And then we'll work with them to develop that program. So when we're doing a selection process with those subrecipient organizations, we want to make sure that our selections are strategic, and so we're not like duplicating and we're not creating confusion in our community with small businesses. So there's a clear path for them to go to. If I'm of a certain characteristic, I know I should be going to seek my opportunity over here and not there. So we want to make sure that we're doing that. So we'll be working with them. So they don't get to necessarily come to us and say, we're going to set our own criteria. Yes, but with us as well.
I have a follow-up question.
Sure.
So just to clarify, did you say that it was not probably going to be an eligibility requirement for a small business to have been impacted or be in existence prior to the date of the storm?
You can be a new
Yeah.
business.
Okay, great. I was just curious mostly about businesses that were in the middle of opening during the storm and if they would be eligible for any funding opportunities. Okay, great.
They would be.
Thanks.
Are there a number of sub-recipients that we're seeking to have or identified as far as what sector they'll serve? Is that kind of known, or is it a waiting period to see what applications come in to review?
We wanted to cast as open of a call as we could so that we left the opportunity to subrecipient organizations to propose that to us. Now, we'll definitely want to strategize with them as we're making that selection. But in terms of how many, we obviously don't want to do a lot.
Right.
We would prefer to do a few. And, within the caps that we have set, we have a $10 million maximum. So you could potentially see us doing 2.
That was going to be my next question, that award amount that was outlined on, I think, one of your first slides. That's for a total to however many sub-recipients they are. That would be divided up.
Correct. So the notice that we have out right now is for $15.5 million. So we have another notice that will come later for those mitigation resilience type activities.
Okay.
And then we also have our administrative costs that we have at the city that we've set aside too. So the amount that is actually available for subrecipients to apply for is $15.5 million. There will be another $500,000 that's out next year for those resilience planning, mitigation, technical assistance type activities. So with that $15.5 million, we'll do a maximum award to any organization of 10, with the opportunity to do another award to another organizations, or you could see us do 3 or 4 as well within that.
That's to
$10
cover
million cap.
their costs, right?
Sorry.
That's to cover their costs, their internal, or what does that award cover?
So that's for them to receive the funding from us and then pass that on to small
All of
businesses.
that is what gets passed on.
Correct. And then within that, they can also budget for what's called activity delivery costs. So if they have staffing costs to deliver on the program, they need to be proposing that in the budget to show that to us, how much it's going to cost them, staffing and materials and everything for them to actually administer that. So that's within the award itself.
That is within the award itself, okay. And just one final question.
Sure.
On the 4 areas, I believe, that were identified, there was one, it was very small, but 1% for public services.
Yeah.
What does that entail?
You're talking about
Yes.
this.
Yes.
So you're talking about that third line from the bottom below the total. It's for $2
It
million.
says economic revitalization and then public services as
Good
part of the
question.
program
So
area.
public services are activities that are not necessarily to build something, but it's to expand or create a new service that benefits low to moderate income folks. What that typically looks like are housing services or economic recovery services as well. So in that program, we have a housing support services and an economic support services kind of split program. What that looks like is housing counseling, connection to housing services, helping people avoid homelessness. And then on the economic support services side of things, we definitely look at that as a partnership to the workforce development piece. So within economic revitalization, there is a $5 million program for workforce development. And within public services, we have economic support services. So that can be things to reduce barriers for folks to access the workforce training. So transportation stipends, childcare support, things that help them be able to have the life around them that makes it easier to go get the training. Does that make sense? So public services, it can be anything from housing support, childcare, transportation. You could do anything from like recreation too, but what we've chosen in our action plan is to do housing support and economic support.
Thank you.
It's a good question.
Can that, just expanding on that, can that take on a flexible application, something akin to like a basic income stipend or provision, or is that not, not the,
So
okay.
what you're talking about is income replacement, and that is not what we've put in our action plan. It's sometimes what you see CDBG DR grantees do. Usually looks like a direct rental assistance program, but we have elected not to do that with this program. So public services is not going to be something where you're helping someone to afford their rent or pay for the heating bill. It's to reduce barriers to get into new housing or to access economic support.
I see. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
I have a question on the timeline.
Sure.
Of the small business grant. Do you mind just pulling up that slide where it's in March when the subrecipients are found out? So I just am curious, is that timeline like in stone, or is there conversations about that? My concern about that timeline is what I've been hearing is the leaf peeping season hasn't been as incredible across small businesses. So my concern with these grants not becoming available and awarded until the spring or summer is the lasting impact of if we're not getting kind of this economic infusion that we need with this current season, what's going to happen in the winter? And my concern is that as we've all worked so hard to reduce as many small business closures as possible, and I know and understand that a lot of time and care, and there's a lot of paperwork that has to go through this, but I'm just curious into, is there any possibility of expediting the timeline? Like, I know in other grant programs that we've worked with, where essentially a subrecipient is found out, it does help allocate and roll out funding quicker because there are relationships that can already kind of determine eligibility requirements. Is any of that being thought in terms of just making sure that people who are really in need, so we don't lose these small businesses, are going to have access to this funding, maybe, before they have to close if they don't make it through the winter? It's just my concern.
The place where I see potential friction in this program that will either speed things up or slow things down is the December to January timeline of working with those potential subrecipients to develop their own program manuals. And that's in our selection process. We're hoping to see organizations that are ready. In our selection process, we will likely not select an organization that's never worked with federal grants. We're going to be looking for folks who have done this and are ready to go off the bat. And it can come to us with a solid proposal and a readiness to develop their program and get it out the door as quick as possible. So that's part of our evaluation, is the ability to achieve results. So it's a tough thing to say, but that's honestly like the position that we're in, is we can't work with a brand new startup nonprofit that's never done business grants before. It's just not going to happen. They're welcome to apply, and we'll go through the competitive selection process just like any applicant. But our scoring criteria in our NOFO is extremely clear about how we're going to evaluate potential subrecipient partners. So that's really just what we're going to have to do that. So to answer your question, we are going to do everything we can to meet and exceed that timeline.
I do have two more questions.
Certainly.
I always have a lot of questions.
It's the first meeting, y'all. It's great. How are we on time?
Are we
Are we okay on time?
Oh, okay. I'll make it quick. Are we anticipating any delay in funding with other federal government shutdown situations or anything like that?
No.
No. So our timeline is independent of all of.
We are independent of shutdowns. We are independent of federal congressional decisions. Our allocation that we got back in December of last year was a single act of Congress, and it's not subject to.
So there's
the
not
annual budget
additional
cycles.
things that we would have to be putting in
And even
for.
during the shutdown, we were able to draw on the grant and pay for our administrative costs.
Yeah.
Hi, Mary.
How much of CDBG do we have in hand?
Well, we have full access to the entire grant. So we never actually received the grant in our city coffers. We have grant authority on the entirety of the grant at this point. So if we were to roll out this small business support program and make a $10 million award to a subrecipient, we're ready to put that right out right now.
But do we
Have the money.
Are we advancing it, or do we have the federal money to reimburse ourselves?
Yeah.
We advance it. So when we pay out,
And then we wait for reimbursement.
and it takes about 3 days.
And so because that is not how we're experiencing all the money coming through FEMA and Homeland Security.
That's-
Right.
So you're not having any trouble?
Not at all. The friction is actually very little when we go to request reimbursement from our grant. It actually is just a two-factor request. Our documentation must be very good, because when we do get audited and monitored, we got to back that up. But when I want to request $300,000 to pay for our admin cost, I put in a voucher to the system. Elma says it looks good, and then it goes. And and we get paid in about 3 days. And that happened twice during the shutdown.
So how much have we received so far of the 225?
600,000, I believe, is what we have already reimbursed for. Correct. So that's our administrative costs with the development of the action plan, all the policies and procedure development, program manual development, pays for our vendors, pays for Elma's salary, pays for some of mine. So that's nothing but really just administrative costs that we've incurred since the grant.
Okay, I mean, that's, and super great news. We are seeing HUD change their position on other fundings and other types of, not this, other things that are kind of catching us off guard midstream. I'm hoping this is sacred and we won't have any issues, but we are.
Personally got caught in an SBA shutdown, like a shutdown when we were building here on Cox Avenue, that all of our funding and loan status stopped.
And it's not the shutdown that has caused
Yeah.
issues.
Right.
It's been other
Policy,
administrative
yeah,
holdups. So we
yeah.
have these different buckets.
Right.
And this is really good on this one.
Right.
Some of the others we're really struggling
Yeah.
to get, but they're in different departments. This
Right.
is in HUD. Our other monies are coming through Homeland Security and that.
Right.
We're
Yeah.
really seeing some challenges.
Yeah, shortages everywhere. Okay, and then only last
Mayor?
question, thank you. In terms of workforce development and programs, I understand the small businesses, if they weren't in existence or could potentially be qualifying, but in terms of workforce development, is it okay, can we tie it to industries that maybe weren't necessarily here in large numbers, but that we want to attract?
Yes, for sure. So the way that it kind of is in my mind, and we're going to come back to you guys to help kind of craft this, but what we have in our action plan right now is we're going to look for partner organizations, likely educational institutions or nonprofits that do job skills training. And we'll be able to provide them with the staff support via a dollar award for them to be able to provide free or almost free skills and training and certifications to folks in our community who are looking to get, if you're looking to get a CDL license to be able to drive a bigger truck,
Right.
and you're of low to moderate income, you can go to an organization that will train you to do that for free. Just as an example idea. That's not necessarily, I'm not saying that's something we will do, just to kind of give you a tangible, that's what that likely looks like. And then with the public service, back to your prior question, if we're able to help that person be able to reduce the barriers to get into that program, if they have children, if they have transportation issues, that's something that we can look at, like with our economic support public service program, helping them reduce that friction to get into the program.
But it could be used to increase offerings, for instance, at AB Tech or other programs that they already offer, but awarded and to boost those programs, like their manufacturing programs and such.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, is that these funds, when you're talking about public service, they can be used to expand or create new
Okay.
opportunities for those kind of things. What they cannot do is supplant existing programs. So if an organization already has a job training program that's
Right, it would
budgeted
be-
and paid for, we can't just supplant that program with our funding. What we pay for with our funding is, oh, you have 2 trainers. How about you have 3 now?
Right, right.
That's the
Exactly,
expansion or
yeah.
creation of new.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
James, you've mentioned a couple of times things where you see where this group would be assisting. You've got your blue box up there. But just in summary, how does this body work with you? What are you looking from us over this period of time?
Not me, but I think the city sees this as a thought partner. So when we are looking at developing, for example, the next notice of funding opportunity we put out for example, the small business mitigation type of activity, we want to come to you guys and say, what exactly should that look like? How do we craft that program to actually meet the existing need in the community? We also will look to you guys as megaphones. As well. We would want to look to y'all as leveraging your networks, leveraging the folks that you know and the ability to communicate with your networks to spread the word about what we're doing. So when we are, for example, doing a small business support program, this is where I would have loved to have you guys 2 months ago, and I want you to do it now and in the future, so is helping us to spread that word through the organizations that you work with and represent. For example, once we do have subrecipients on board and they're taking in businesses to apply to get actual grant funding, get money to recover, We want y'all to help us blast that out to the community and say, here's where you go if you're a business in Asheville to seek support. So it's kind of a two-part thing, and maybe I could ask Chris to maybe anything else, but it's thought partners as we're developing our policies, thought partners as we're developing these programs and moving them out the door, as well as help as being advocates for what we're doing as well, and sharing and helping us communicate. Is there anything else you would say, Chris?
No, I was going to say ambassador. I mean, the megaphone, that's the big thing. So you got it all. You're great. James Shelton magic.
Is there anything we shouldn't be doing or be cautious of doing?
Chris?
I'm sure there is, but really just speaking on behalf of a program before it's done. So James and team and other groups in the city may come with questions, look for input, et cetera, from this group. And just because it is said here doesn't mean that it will be, right? So a big key to remember, this is an advisory board. So not that this will happen, but it's possible you can say, we want to do X, and it gets to council and council decides Y, right? Like it can always be a modification or the same and anywhere in between. So just make sure things are final before you're out being the megaphone.
And I think we also will see this as a public forum too. When we, and I say when, not if, we make changes to our action plan. So if we decide at some point, you know what, we don't want to do a workforce development program. We just want to move $5 million and put it straight towards small business support. Not saying that's what we were thinking about. I'm just saying if we want to ever make a change to our action plan, HUD requires us to, at certain thresholds, do a public comment period. This is a public body. This is a public space. This is where we can host public input, and your comments, your thoughts and input can serve as that comment that we need to get for any changes that we make to our action plan. Again, for the public record, that is just an example. There's no intent to do that whatsoever. Yes, Mr. Chair.
I would just like to say one last thing. Just because the thing that's really in front of us right now, the thing that's really just happening is this small business grant. And I just want to again reiterate that anything that can be done to help kind of expedite that timeline, I just want to reiterate that the feeling in small businesses, particular, I think, if you look at the service industry, brick and mortar, it is very, very palpable, the level of anxiety and worry that is happening on the ground, and people wondering if they're going to be able to make it through this season. We're already starting to see closures downtown. So I think the most effective that process can be to get that money out as expedited as possible is literally an opportunity to help save and stop closures continuing through the holiday, after the holiday period. So I just wanted to just reiterate that one last time. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Burrows. I appreciate that. And we've got a good team on board, and we hear that. Thank you so much.
I just like to pipe up and say this is not the first time James has heard that, and I just want to thank James and the rest of the staff at the city that have put so much thought and care into this process so far. I've seen many, many presentations about this at this point, and I've just been really impressed with the work that you all have put into this.
Thank you, Ms. Cornell.
Yeah, I second that. Thank you so much. I've asked a lot of questions of you, and I appreciate your timeliness in answering and being so thorough, and actually looking at some of the changes that's occurred just because of community input and comment. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, that's the NOFO that you see right now is a direct result of the engagement that we had, but we would have done with a body like this, but that we took on with the Asheville Chamber and Go Local and lots of folks who were sitting here. But we did some further stakeholder engagement that got us to a place where we did not do a loan program with this. It is a grant program. $15.5 million of grant money is what we're putting out right now. And then we have another $500,000 that'll go out for business training, business resilience, strategizing. So we totally put the whole loan thing aside. We gave it the proper thinking, turned it over a million different ways, and we heard enough, and we said, you know what, this is just what we need to do. So that's how we got to the decision. Thank you for our whole community for being a part of that.
I have one more question, sorry. So can you tell us, I've heard CDBG-DR referenced this way several times, like it's funding of last resort. how should we be thinking about that? And especially in light of like the urgency that we feel here right now.
When we say funding of last resort, we are required by the feds to do what's called a duplication of benefit analysis to ensure that when you're paying with this grant money to recover, they're not being recovered by some other federal source. So for example, if your business was flooded and the damage of that flooding was $100,000 and you went to SBA and you got a $100,000 loan, federally, it considers you to be recovered. Now, you may have further needs above and beyond that $100,000 flooding. You may have had economic loss that you haven't been able to get recovered from. But in terms of the federal things, you're not able to duplicate that federal assistance. It's already considered to sort of be recovered.
Even if it's a loan?
Even if it's a loan.
So can it be used to pay that loan off to not incur
No.
interest?
It cannot be used to pay off a loan. It can be paid for working capital, it can be paid for payroll, it can be paid for lease, temporary leases.
Got it.
It can be paid for utility, movable equipment is eligible, inventory is eligible. But when we look at what did the storm do to you, and what have you gotten to recover, where this funding comes in is what you have not been able to recover yet, both physical and economic loss.
And only coming from a federal source initially?
Well, the only federal, I say federal, but state as well.
State.
Yeah, and any other public source.
Public source. Okay.
Charitable donations do not count.
Do not count, okay.
And private, like if you were to put your own money into it, that wouldn't count either.
Okay.
So private donations and support. So if you had a GoFundMe, that's not part of the calculation.
But insurance is
Insurance
duplicative,
counts.
yes. I have a question too. So we can stop whenever you stop us, just stop us. Construction was a question that came up during the working groups, and I haven't heard anything about that today. Well, how did that, so the question is, can you use this funding to do construction?
It's a great question, and no.
Okay, thank you.
The reason behind that is in terms of expediency and getting money into businesses' hands, when you introduce construction, you introduce the extra sheet of red tape, not a blanket, but it's just a sheet, that comes with environmental review, which can take time, significant time often, as well as labor laws. If you do more than $2,000 worth of construction work with CDBG funds, you bring in labor requirements that most construction firms that are going to be doing this small level type work just aren't ready to comply with. And to find the labor and the contractors that are willing and able to adopt the federal labor requirements, it's just such that it's better to use these funds for working capital and look to those other resources for the construction capital. It just helps this program move faster. And we've turned that over a lot too from the beginning. And what we looked at with other disaster recovery communities, they found if they did small business construction grants or loans, they were sitting on that money 5 years later because folks just didn't want to deal with it. So we're trying to, that's hopefully going to help us move this out faster.
For labor costs, are you referring to Davis-Bacon?
Yes, that's Davis-Bacon requirements, yes. As well as Section 3. If you do more than $200,000 worth of work with these federal funds, you trigger Section 3, which I'm not going to give you all a Section 3 lesson today. But just know it's another labor requirement.
Sure, thanks.
All right, great discussion. Any other last questions for James before we let him go? All right, thank you, James.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, James.
All right, our last item is public comment. We don't have any public here, and nobody's online in the queue still. All right, well then I would be looking for a motion and a second to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, do we have to do the roll call vote?
Yeah, you can all vote.
Oh, do we have to do it in order on the, like the same?
Yeah, you have to do the vote call.
All right, sorry guys, here we go. Vote to adjourn, Scott?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Pat? Jessica?
Aye.
Katie?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye, sorry.
Alexandria?
Aye.
Jeffrey?
Aye.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.